I'm 86 years old, and the most misunderstood thing in the world of health is not a disease, not a drug, not a deficiency. It is the simple, daily food routine and what it actually does to a human body over a lifetime. Most people think energy is about what you eat in a single meal. They think it's about superfoods or supplements or finding that one ingredient that changes everything. And so they chase it. They read the latest article. They buy the newest product. They try the newest diet. And every few years they start over because nothing holds, nothing sustains, nothing actually works across decades. And that's the first thing you need to understand. Energy is not a moment. Energy is a system. It is built mainly, slowly, consistently over years through a routine that your body learns to trust. When your body trusts the routine, it stops wasting resources preparing for the unknown. It stops storing fat defensively. It stops spiking cortisol in the mornings. It stops sending hunger signals at midnight. Because it knows what's coming, it has learned the pattern. And that conservation of energy, that biological trust, is the foundation of everything. Here's what most people miss. The body runs on prediction. Your metabolism is not just a furnace that burns what you put in. It is a predictive engine that adjusts its output based on what it expects to receive. When you eat at irregular times, skip meals, binge on weekends, and restrict on weekdays, your metabolism becomes defensive. It cannot predict the next input, so it hoards, it slows. It becomes inefficient, not because it's broken, because it's protecting you from what it reads as an unpredictable environment. But when you eat at the same times every single day, and I mean every day, including Sunday, including holidays, including the days when you're tired and the days when you're busy, something profound shifts. The body's anticipatory systems begin to fire before the meal. Digestive enzymes release early. Insulin sensitivity improves. Gastric acid prepares the stomach. The liver prepositions bile. The body is ready before the food arrives, which means digestion becomes dramatically more efficient. Nutrients are absorbed more completely, and the energy derived from that food is cleaner, more sustained, and more available to the brain and muscles for hours afterward. This is not theory. This is the science of circadian biology, and it tells us that every organ in the body operates on its own internal clock, and those clocks synchronize through timing cues, the most powerful of which is meal timing. Your liver has a clock, your pancreas has a clock, your gut microbiome has a clock. When you eat at consistent times, all of these clocks align. When they align, every metabolic process becomes more coordinated. Hormones fire at the right moments. Blood sugar stabilizes naturally. Energy production runs smooth instead of any erratic peaks and crashes. But it goes even deeper than that, because it's not just when you eat, it is how you eat in the early part of the day that determines the energy architecture of everything that follows. The morning meal is not just breakfast, it is the metabolic signal that tells your entire system what kind of day this will be. A dense protein-rich morning meal tells your body that resources are available, that it can invest in activity, cognition, repair. A skipped morning or a sugar-heavy start sends the opposite signal. It tells your system that resources are scarce or unstable, and the body responds by becoming conservative, burning less, storing more, clouding the mind to reduce non-essential metabolic spending. This is why I have eaten a real morning meal, protein, fat, and complex carbohydrate together, at the same hour every morning for over 60 years. Not because someone told me to, because I watched what happened on the days I didn't, the fog, the irritability, the crash by midday, the desperate hunger at 3 in the afternoon followed by poor choices. One skipped morning can corrupt the entire energy profile of the day. And one corrupted day, repeated often enough, becomes a corrupted metabolism. And here's what almost no one talks about. The midday meal is where most people make their most consequential mistake, because by midday, the body is at or near its peak digestive capacity. The sun is high. Cortisol is beginning its natural afternoon decline. The digestive fire, what ancient medicine called agni, is at its strongest point in the 24-hour cycle. This is the moment to give the body its largest, most complex, most nutritionally dense meal of the day. This is when you can eat heavier foods and process them with full efficiency. This is when the pancreas is most sensitive, when the liver is most active, when the gut is most prepared. But most people do the opposite. They eat their lightest meal at midday, a salad, something quick, something convenient, and then they eat their heaviest meal at night, when digestive capacity is naturally declining. When insulin sensitivity is at its lowest point of the day, when the body is already beginning its preparation for sleep and repair, and then they wonder why they're tired in the afternoons, why they can't sleep well, why they wake up sluggish. The food itself wasn't the problem, the timing was. The real power in a food routine is this: it is the sequencing of fuel delivery that matches the body's natural energy expenditure curve. Energy demand is highest from morning through early afternoon. Digestive capacity follows almost exactly the same curve. A routine that aligns fuel delivery with both energy demand and digestive capacity is a routine that produces clean, uninterrupted energy, the kind that doesn't require caffeine to start, doesn't require sugar to sustain, and doesn't collapse at 3 in the afternoon. But go deeper still. Because this alignment has another layer that most people never reach. When you eat with this kind of timing and consistency, you fundamentally change your relationship with hunger. Hunger becomes a signal you can trust. It arrives at predictable times. It is moderate, not desperate. It is informational, not urgent. And because it is trustworthy, you stop eating reactively. You stop eating because you're bored or anxious or because something smells good. You eat because the time has come, the body is prepared, and the meal is ready. That shift from reactive eating to rhythmic eating is one of the most profoundly stabilizing things a human being can do for their long-term health. And within the foods themselves, the specifics matter less than the principle, but the principle has its own specifics. Real food, meaning food that spoils if left out, meaning food that your great-grandmother would have recognized, meaning food that is as close to its original form as possible. Not because processed food is poison, but because real food carries information that processed food is lost. Fiber that feeds the microbiome, phytonutrients that signal cellular repair, enzymes that assist digestion, minerals in bioavailable forms. The body knows the difference. It extracts energy differently from a meal built from whole ingredients than from one built from refined and reconstituted components. The difference in extracted energy is not small. The microbiome is the piece that modern science has only recently begun to understand, and it connects everything. The trillions of bacteria living in your gut are not passengers. They are partners. They regulate inflammation. They produce neurotransmitters. They influence insulin sensitivity. They communicate with the immune system. They affect mood, cognition, and sleep quality, and they thrive on consistency. Consistent timing, consistent fiber sources, consistent meal structure. A disrupted routine disrupts the microbiome. A consistent routine allows it to develop richness and diversity. And a rich, diverse microbiome is one of the most powerful predictors of sustained energy across a lifetime. Here's the hidden layer inside the microbiome piece. The gut produces approximately 90% of the body's serotonin. Serotonin is not just a mood chemical, it is a regulator of gut motility, meaning it controls how efficiently food moves through the digestive tract. It influences sleep onset, which governs overnight cellular repair. It modulates appetite signals, so you eat appropriate amounts at appropriate times. When the microbiome is healthy and the routine is consistent, serotonin production is stable. When serotonin is stable, sleep is deep. When sleep is deep, every other system in the body restores completely, and the energy available the next morning is not borrowed from tomorrow. It is fully generated from the night before. This is the loop that sustains energy not for a week or a month, but for a lifetime. Consistent food timing feeds a healthy microbiome. A healthy microbiome stabilizes serotonin. Stable serotonin enables deep sleep. Deep sleep enables complete restoration. Complete restoration delivers clean morning energy. And clean morning energy makes the consistent food routine feel natural, effortless, and sustainable. Each part of the loop reinforces the next. Now consider what happens at the cellular level, because this is where the routine earns its deepest justification. Every cell in the body runs on ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the currency of biological energy. The mitochondria inside each cell produce ATP through a process that depends on the steady delivery of glucose, fatty acids, and specific micronutrients. When nutrients arrive in a consistent, predictable pattern, mitochondria maintain their efficiency, they replicate properly, they stay healthy. But when the nutrient environment is chaotic, feast and famine cycling, erratic timing, highly processed inputs, mitochondrial function degrades. Fewer ATP molecules are produced per unit of food consumed. Energy yield drops. And because mitochondria are also responsible for regulating the cellular life cycle, their dysfunction accelerates aging at the cellular level. This is not a metaphor, it is biochemistry. The food routine protects mitochondria, and healthy mitochondria are the biological engine of sustained human energy. There is also the question of blood sugar, which most people reduce to a simple idea: eat sugar, blood sugar rises; eat less sugar, blood sugar is stable. But the real story is more complex and more interesting. Blood sugar is not primarily regulated by how much sugar you eat. It is regulated by the timing, composition, and consistency of meals across the entire day. A high carbohydrate meal eaten at 7 in the morning after a protein rich breakfast 40 minutes earlier produces a very different blood sugar response than the same meal eaten alone at noon or after fasting since the previous evening. The presence of protein slows gastric emptying. The prior meal primes insulin sensitivity. The routine itself trains the pancreas to respond appropriately. What looks like a problem with carbohydrates is often, in fact, a problem with context. The absence of a structured routine that would have buffered the glucose response entirely. This is why the food routine held consistently gradually reduces cravings. Not by willpower, by biology. When blood sugar is stable, the brain does not send urgent hunger signals. When the brain does not send urgent hunger signals, the person does not reach for fast carbohydrates as emergency fuel. When fast carbohydrates are not consumed erratically, blood sugar remains stable. The cycle becomes self-reinforcing in the right direction instead of the wrong one. Most people try to address cravings by resisting them. The routine eliminates the conditions that create them in the first place. Now the practical application. Because all of this knowledge is worth nothing without the implementation, begin with one thing: eat your first meal within an hour of waking every day at the same time. Protein and fat together with something real. An egg, some nuts, some whole grain. Not sweet, not fast, not on the go. Sit. Eat slowly. This single habit, held consistently for 30 days, will begin to restructure your hunger signals. You will notice the afternoon crashes softening. You will notice morning waking becoming more natural. Then address the midday meal. Make it your main meal, not your rushed one. Give it time. Give it substance. Vegetables, protein, complex carbohydrates, good fat. Eat until satisfied, not full. This is the meal your body is most ready for, so give it something worth processing. Then make the evening meal lighter, not absent, light. Cooked vegetables, some protein, something warm, easy on the gut. Finished at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep. This alone will change the quality of your sleep in ways that cascade into every other area of your health. Hold the timing consistent. Adjust the foods as needed, but hold the timing. Because the timing is the architecture and everything else builds on it. I have done this for 60 years. Not perfectly. There were travels, illnesses, celebrations, disruptions. But I returned to the routine. Always. Because I had experienced enough times what it felt like to drift from it. The heaviness, the fogginess, the slow fatigue that creeps in when the system loses its rhythm. That returning was never hard. It was always a relief. Energy at 86 is not a mystery. It is not genetics, though genetics plays a role. It is not luck. It is the accumulated result of a body that has been given consistent, rhythmic, real nutrition for decades. A body that has learned to trust its inputs. A body whose clocks are synchronized, whose microbiome is rich, whose metabolism is efficient, whose sleep is restorative. A body that has never had to fight its own routine because the routine was built with the body, not against it. The most profound truth about sustaining energy through a lifetime is that it has nothing to do with exceptional ingredients or expensive interventions. It has everything to do with the humblest, least glamorous thing in the world of health: doing the same right things at the same right times for a very, very long time. That is the routine. That is the secret. And now it is yours.